Okay, so for today, we are talking about perfect square trinomials and difference of squares. So these are just some things you'll come across in factoring that are patterns you can notice that are going to make your life a little bit easier as you start to notice those. Um, when I come across a trinomial that looks like this, when I look at this number here, I see that that's a perfect square. So that clues me in that I might have a perfect square trinomial. What a perfect square trinomial is, like this, it's really x plus 4 times x plus 4, okay? When you have these, you can still do the method where you put the product up there and the sum here, and you can still figure it out. But as you notice these perfect squares, it's going to be easier to see if it fits into this pattern. So perfect square trinomial, it's factored, looks like that. The thing you need to be warned of is a lot of times it will be simplified and written like this. Okay, just remember that this means the same thing as this. So this is a perfect square trinomial. So it's just a binomial squared. It gives you that. So here's, I'm just going to do a couple of examples so you can start to notice that pattern, and then you can work on your assignment for those. Let's see, this one's a perfect square. What's it a perfect square of? 7. This is a negative 14. So if I add 7 plus 7, it's giving me a positive 14. That lets me know that I'm not adding positive 7, I'm not using positive 7, I'm going to be using negative 7. So x minus 7 times x minus 7. Again, you can always go back to using that x method and it still works, but this is just a shortcut for those of you that start to notice that pattern when you have a perfect square right there. Okay. And when you've got 3 terms, when you have a trinomial. Again, this can also be written as x minus 7 quantity squared. All right, this is what you're going to see more mathematically. Just remember this means the same thing as this. Same thing. It's both factored. All right, let's go ahead and look at the next one. We've got x squared plus 12x plus 36. 36 is a perfect square. It's the square. If I square 6, I'm going to get that 36. I also know 6 plus 6 is 12. So that's how I know this is a perfect square trinomial. So it's x plus 6 times x plus 6, which also can be written as x plus 6 quantity squared. So that's just one case of special things you're going to notice in factoring units when you've got a trinomial. So you've got 3 terms here. If this term is a perfect square, see if you double that if you're going to get that term in the middle. So that's something to look for. These are perfect square trinomials, all right? Another thing that we're going to notice is called the difference of squares. Difference of squares, please note on all of these examples, there are only 2 terms, just 2 terms, not 3. There's just 2 terms. There's a middle term is missing. Also, difference means subtraction. Don't try to do these. You don't want to try to do it if it says x squared plus 36. You're not going to have an answer. You're not going to have real roots. Okay, so let's take a look at this, x squared minus 36. I take a look at that term. Yep, it's a perfect square. The difference is when you split this one up, since there is no middle term, this actually splits to x plus 6 times x minus 6. X plus 6 times x minus 6. And that's how all those difference of squares split as you start to find that pattern. And I'll quick show you why that works. So if we multiply this out to check if our factoring was correct, I would have x times x, and I'd get x squared. X times negative 6, get negative 6x. 6 times x, I'm getting a positive 6x. 6 times negative 6, give me that negative 36. And then when you simplify, I have a minus 6 plus 6, so that's a 0. So I'm getting x squared minus 36. So I know this factoring that we did is correct, because when I multiplied it out, it got us back to our original problem. So because it's x plus 6 and x minus 6, that middle term becomes 0, or cancels. That middle term becomes 0. And so it just looks like x squared minus 36. So we kind of like those when we come across them once you get used to factoring, because they're quick and easy with that middle term dropping out. So let's take a look at another one. X squared minus 64. Yep, 64 is a perfect square. What's the square of? Let's see. I've got x plus 8 and x minus 8. And there you go, that one's factored. Nice and easy. Again, if you want to check it, you can always multiply it out to see that you get back to that one. Difference of squares. Let's see, here's our next problem. X squared minus 25. 25 is perfect square. What's it the square of? It's the square of 5. So it's going to be x plus 5 and x minus 5. And that's how you factor it. So that's just how you factor that problem. Please don't ever try this if it's a plus in here. It's only a difference of squares, okay? They've got to be a subtraction. Got to be subtraction. One square minus another. One square minus another. One square minus another. So those are the two problems you're going to come across on today's assignment. And also about today's assignment, it looks like a quiz, but it's a little different because after you hit submit on your assignment, when this screen pops up, it's going to have these words here. It'll say edit your response. So after you view your score, you click there, view your score, and you'll see what you got wrong. Make note of it, pay attention, because then you can click back on the screen and go in and edit your response. You can go in and edit your response. So you can go ahead and don't close out this little screen when it pops up. Don't hit that X until you've done the edit your response and you're satisfied with it. So you can go ahead and change your answers, correct your mistakes, and then after you have submitted it and you're fine, check your score and it's all where you want it, then you're good to go. So you can get a total perfect score on today's assignment if you make sure you click that edit your response button after you've viewed your score, edit your response, and go in and get a perfect score on the assignment for today. Have a great week. Thanks.